A girl is being held captive by a demon. To keep her from escaping, he eats and sleeps by her side, never leaving her alone. And yet the first thing she does when she opens her eyes is to shoot him without a second thought. Even so, the demon can't bring himself to truly harm her. All because her life was accidentally bound to his demonic contracts. If the girl dies, he, the powerful demon lord of the underworld, goes down with her. As it turns out, the girl is a spy named Pearl. One day after finishing a mission, she comes home to find a secret letter that should have been impossible to deliver. Even more shocking, her brother Amber, who was long dead, is not only alive, but is asking her to go to the City of Desire in his place. Her mission? Find an ancient scroll he signed within the powerful Guster family to uncover the truth and see her brother again. Pearl goes alone to a Guster family party. She's stunned to find that every guest is a member of the city's new elite. They've all had wishes granted by the demon and have greedily returned for more. To avoid being noticed, she disguises herself as a waitress, weaving through the lavish crowd with a tray of drinks, marveling at the incredible power of whoever was running this place. She turns a corner and sees a sign that reads, "No entry." Earl knows she's in the right place. Peeking into the rooms, she's nearly drowned by an overflowing vault of gold coins in one, and sees a gluttonous feast floating in midair in another. Before opening the third door, she braces herself. But she's still not prepared for the array of eye-popping, adult-only scenes inside. Her jaw drops. What kind of party was this? Just as she's about to turn away, she hears voices from down the hall. Her spy instincts tell her it might be related to the demon contracts, so she hides behind a door to listen in. A man is trying to strong-arm the demon lord, begging to be put in the highest seat of political power. The man gets so desperate that he offers to sacrifice his own son's heart to the demon king. Pearl expected the demon to be pleased, but instead he just scoffs, sneering that the man's soul is utterly disgusting and looking at him like a piece of trash. Bald Man flies into a rage, screaming that he tried to do this the easy way, and orders his bodyguards to open fire. But as the bullets fly, the demon simply snaps his fingers, and the projectiles bounce right off him. Pearl is dumbfounded. She's not only witnessed a secret deal, but is now a witness to a murder. If he finds her, she's dead for sure. Of course, just as she thinks it, it happens. Sensing he's being watched, the man's eyes flick toward her hiding spot. Pearl ducks down instantly, covering her mouth. It's the first time she's ever made a mistake like this. She was a split second from making eye contact. She tries to run, but to her horror, she finds she can't move. Her body is frozen, held by some invisible force, as the sound of footsteps gets closer and closer from behind the door. Looks like a little rat snuck in. Knowing she's doomed, Pearl closes her eyes, waiting for the end. But unexpectedly, a large hand appears in front of her. Before she can react, it grabs her and pulls her into a dead sprint. When Pearl came to her senses, she was safely away from the demon's territory. Her savior was the person she'd been desperately searching for. Her brother, Amber, the one who taught her how to survive when they were children. How was this possible? Was he really alive? As he turns to leave, she scrambles after him, trying to ask what happened to him and how he came back from the dead. But when she follows him into an empty basement, he's vanished. Nearby, however, are rows of ancient scrolls, and among them is the very one her brother sent her to find. As Pearl reaches for it, another hand appears in her vision. When she sees who it is, she instinctively throws herself into his arms. "I finally found you." The man takes off his hat. "Miss, you're awfully friendly for a first meeting," he teases. "Who did you mistake me for in the little illusion I cast?" Realizing she's been tricked, Pearl steps back. But the demon's arm snakes around her waist, holding her tight, so eager to steal my book of contracts. "What is it that you want?" Pearl is shocked to learn what the scrolls are, but she needs to escape this monster. She lies, claiming she's a new waitress who got lost. After a half-hearted apology, she tries to slip away, but the man blocks her path. "That scent? I've smelled it since you were eavesdropping at the door," he says. "Humans are always entangled in their desires, giving off a foul, murky stench. The smell of their greed and hypocrisy is nauseating. They trade their pathetic little wishes with me from behind their pretty faces. Hearing this, Pearl finally understands. The city of desire, where any wish can be granted, is built on deals with this demon. The man's tone shifts, but the scent on you is faint and special. Whatever your desire is, I can help you get it. Just sign a contract with me. But Pearl isn't tempted in the slightest. She knows this demon is too dangerous to fight head-on, but she has no choice but to take a chance. She pulls a hidden dagger from her waist and lunges, aiming for his heart. With a simple flick of his finger, however, the demon sends the dagger flying from her hand and turns it back against her. Even as she's knocked to the ground, Pearl isn't panicking. Hidden in the dagger's hilt is a tranquilizer needle, potent enough to take down a full-grown bear. She dives into a nearby river to escape, praying the drug will buy her some time. It's her only chance. But the demon is completely immune. He dives in right after her. He holds her underwater, and the suffocating pressure makes her struggle wildly. But he's unaffected, just as she thinks she's about to die. The blood from her cuts begins to seep out and merge with the demon's contracts. Suddenly, hundreds of scrolls around them glow with a red light. The man turns to look, frozen in shock. His contracts are vanishing. Before he can process it, he feels a choking sensation and is forced to drag Pearl to the surface with him. He doesn't understand why he was drowning. Could it be that this girl's life is now tied to his demonic contracts? Afterwards, the demon brought the girl a meal, but she refused to touch it. She knew that just moments ago, he had been trying to drown her. This sudden change of heart meant he was either trying to poison her or had some other trick up his sleeve. So, even though her stomach was growling, she refused to take a single bite. Meanwhile, the demon's familiar, which he'd sent to watch the girl, flew back. The demon glanced up. Well, did she eat? Learning that she hadn't touched her food, he immediately gave his friend an order. Get me a full background check on her. Everything from her birth up to now. History, experience, even her favorite foods. Report it all back to me. Holt looked at him like he'd seen a ghost. Damon, are you getting a little too invested in this human? I've been with you for centuries, and this is the first time you've ever brought someone back here. Despite his friend's concern, the demon was unmoved. I'm just trying to cure my boredom. At that moment, the captive Pearl discovers a ventilation shaft. As she crawls through it, she tells herself, she'll definitely find a way out. Elsewhere, PT is holding his book, trying to talk some sense into his lovesick boss. According to the records, prolonged contact with humans can lead to adverse symptoms, such as accelerated heart rate and the thought, damn, humans are kind of interesting. The Demon King is skeptical. You're my second in command, and you're reading this useless garbage. Holt calmly closes the book. I was merely consulting relevant data. Every demon who has had close relationships with humans has a record of death. This seems to infuriate the Demon King. I am a demon who has controlled human desire for 1,000 years. Dealing with her is as easy as crushing an ant. As luck would have it, the girl in the ventilation shaft hears every word, realizing not only that he's right below her, but that he's talking about her. Her stomach betrays her with another loud growl. She sees the two men below look up in her direction and panics. He can't find me. If he gets close, it's over. Just as she starts crawling down a different path, Damon speaks again. But are you questioning me? The man with the glasses meets his gaze without fear. Damon, with all due respect, you've taken a liking to this human. That's why you've brought her here, to keep her. The question catches the Demon King off guard. He scoffs as if he's just heard the world's greatest joke. This woman's blood got on my demonic contracts. Now the contracts have formed some kind of connection with her life signs. Holt looks horrified. So, if she dies, will the contracts be destroyed? The demon isn't sure. It's a possibility. If I can't collect the price of my contracts, my power will be severely diminished. No one can know about this. Holt nods in understanding. I'll start researching a solution right away. Meanwhile, Pearl has been crawling for half an hour, only to find she's circled back to where she started. At the same time, she hears the two men talking again. For now, we can't let this human woman escape, but we can't eat her soul right away either. Thinking back to the lavish dinner he had prepared, Pearl is now certain. He thinks I'm not tasty enough yet. He wants to fatten me up first. Then the demon below says, just keep a close eye on her. But what Pearl hears is, he's going to kill me right now. I have to get out of here. She barely dared to breathe. Once they finally left, she tried to drop down from a chandelier, but her eyes widened in terror. The man who had just left was suddenly walking back into the room. Not wanting his dog-like nose to pick up her human scent, Pearl held her breath. But of course, just then her stomach decided to betray her with a loud growl. With a flick of his finger, the girl was sent flying backward. Thankfully, her reflexes were sharp, and she managed to hook her foot on the chandelier frame. But before she could even breathe a sigh of relief, the demon was right in front of her, making her tremble. His eyes were ice cold as he looked her over. "Having fun up there on the ceiling?" he asked. But what he really wanted to know was when she had gotten there, and how much of his conversation with PT she had overheard. His stare was making her skin crawl. Pearl tried to deflect. The food wasn't to my taste, so I came looking for something else. She was desperate to get down. Hanging by one leg was not sustainable. The demon took a step closer, looking for something to eat. Are there breadcrumbs on the chandelier? Terrified he was going to eat her, Pearl instinctively tried to push away, but she used too much force and her clothes got snagged. Just when she thought she was a goner, the demon, who was in the same boat as her, reluctantly used his magic to help her land safely. As she stood up, she tried to cover her back, but the man pulled her hand away. Seeing the black tattoo on her lower back, the demon's interest was piqued. Her expression now was far more interesting than before. March 16th. A mark from a moment of despair, isn't it? A human's most vulnerable moment is the perfect time to sign a contract. With that in mind, he leaned in. "You poor thing," he comforted. "Let me help you. I can turn your despair into hope. You came to my territory for a reason. Let me guess. For revenge, greed, or perhaps a pathetic love?" His words dredged up painful memories and tears welled up in Pearl's eyes. The man lifted her chin, enjoying the sight of her sorrow. But unexpectedly, the tears didn't fall from her eyes. Instead, they streamed down the demon's handsome face. The great demon king was completely stunned. How is this possible? Why am I the one crying? You've got to be kidding me. While he was distracted, Pearl bolted for the door. That was too close. The demon's intuition was too sharp. She couldn't let him find out her true purpose. If Amber was still alive, her failure would put him in danger. She was just a few feet from the exit, running with all her might, when she slammed right into someone. Looking up, she saw two twin boys in tattered clothes. They glanced at each other, neither recognizing her. Thinking they were also human prisoners, Pearl grabbed one of the boys by the arm. "Come with me," she urged. "The demon is right behind us." But she quickly realized something was wrong. No matter how hard she pulled, the boy wouldn't budge. A second later, both brothers broke into a sinister grin. "Oh, so you're the boss's prey. If we take care of a human who escaped from him, maybe he'll forgive us for failing our last mission." Realizing the harmless-looking twins were in league with the demon, Pearl turned and ran. The man tried to stop them from hurting her, but it was too late. The twins tossed 2 gold coins, and the resulting explosion sent a shockwave that slammed into the girl. At the same instant, the demon lord felt his power draining away. And before the twins' shocked eyes, he transformed into a small child. The twins were completely dumbfounded. "Is that really the boss?" To answer their silent question, the little boy, his face dark, snapped his fingers. "Great," he said flatly. "My magic is completely gone." The powerful, suffocating aura that followed, however, instantly confirmed it for them. That pressure was definitely their boss. Just then, P rushed to the girl's side. The twins panicked. "Master P, the boss is over here!" But P, though he heard them clearly, didn't even look up, focusing solely on healing Pearl. As soon as Pearl's external injuries were healed, the demon felt his drained magic rapidly returning. In the blink of an eye, he was back to his powerful adult form. The blue-eyed twin couldn't help but ask, "What is the relationship between the boss and this girl?" Holt glanced back at them and said one word. "A weakness." The word sent a chill through the twins. The last thing they wanted was for something to happen to their boss. Holt touched the girl's forehead. Her fever can't be fixed with magic. She'll just have to rest and recover. Later, the twins learned that Pearl's life was accidentally tied to their bosses and immediately apologized for their attack, explaining they had mistaken her for prey since she was the first human they'd seen in the mansion. Damon, nursing a headache, couldn't be bothered with them until PT announced, "Her temperature is 103.5. He sprang up from his chair. "Don't tell me I have to take care of her." As if on cue, the other three found an excuse and skewered away, leaving a bewildered Damon sitting by the bed. A moment later, Pearl mumbled that she was thirsty. Damon instinctively tried to conjure a tea set with magic, but nothing happened. Surprised that his powers hadn't fully returned, his body still moved on its own, and he got up to pour her a glass of water. But after drinking, she started whimpering again. He looked at the sweat-soaked towel on her forehead and tried to use magic to wring it out, but he misjudged the force and ended up drenching her instead. Defeated, he had to do it by hand, grumbling to himself, "This is such a pain. I just need her fever to break." Just then, a hand grabbed his. Damon looked up to see the girl frowning, seemingly trapped in a nightmare. "Please," she murmured. "Hold my hand. Don't leave me." Seeing her looking so vulnerable, the man paused, a curious glint in his eye. Who does she think I am this time? Am I supposed to play house with her now? In her dream, Pearl was calling out to an illusion of her childhood friend. "Amber? Is that you? I've searched all over this strange city for you. I only feel like I have a place in this world when you're holding my hand. You're my everything. Don't leave me alone." Back in reality, Damon heard her mumbling again and leaned closer. "Pearl wants to eat your Provenance-style scrambled eggs with tomato," she said. He finally knew her name was Pearl. But what the hell was a Provence? He didn't know how to cook, but he could certainly pass the problem on to his subordinates waiting outside. In a flash, the great demon king had been at her bedside all night. The next morning, Pearl's eyes fluttered open to see Damon's face right next to hers. Then she saw their intertwined hands and froze. She yanked her hand away from Damon's, her eyes filled with suspicion. "Why am I holding hands with this demon?" The man opened his eyes, and seeing that she looked better, he tried to summon his magic. To his delight, his power felt full and strong again. He then noticed the girl was back to treating him with extreme caution. Just then, the twins came in with a bowl of rustic stew. "Boss, this was made by the best chef in the city. It's the home-style dish you asked for." Damon frowned at the bowl. "So, this is the leftover-style casserole she was mumbling about in her dream." Curious, he took a sniff, planning to taste it so he could replicate it with magic later. Meanwhile, Pearl started to doubt herself. No way. Did I reveal something while I was sick? The stew smelled delicious, and Pearl took a small bite. As she did, fragments of the conversation between Damon and PT flashed through her mind. Feeling Damon's intense gaze on her from the sofa, she stopped and met his eyes. "Are you doing all this for me? Just to fatten up my desires so you can eat me?" Damon grinned. Before she could react, his thumb traced her lips. "You're smart. A worthy test subject. I want to see just how far human desire can be nourished. Once your soul is delicious enough, I'll enjoy my meal." With that, he brought the finger that had just touched her lips to his mouth and licked it. Pearl's face went pale. Her worst fear was confirmed. This demon's ultimate goal was her soul. Just then, P knocked, asking if she was feeling rested. The girl flinched like a startled animal, but PT ignored her reaction and gestured to a mountain of designer clothes, perfumes, and makeup, telling her she could use whatever she wanted. Pearl was stunned, but she still retorted, "You think you can tempt me with this? You're all far too arrogant." The next day, she wanted to go out and gather information, but found she was confined to the mansion. As she pondered her next move, she decided that of the 4 demons, only the second in command, PT, had never tried to harm her. Maybe she could use him. Did Amber really want me to get the demon contracts? He's never shown up here. Was his return from the dead a lie? Is someone using me? Lost in thought, she wandered into the garden and heard voices coming from a gazebo. Damon. The twins failed their mission. There's a traitor in the family. Recognizing the voices, she quickly hid in the bushes to eavesdrop. PTZ seemed unaware of her presence. The trader has a top-secret list of all our deeply bound VIPs. He's planning to trade it to a man named Black Jade from the Oboe family at next week's gala. Here's his photo. Pearl's eyes widened. Black Jade was the middleman Amber used for his handoffs. He might have information she didn't know. If she could get out, she could find clues and escape the demon's grasp at the same time. I hate the smell of those people, Damon said, refusing to go. You handle the interception. That list cannot fall into their hands. Just then, a figure shot out from the bushes. It was Pearl, grabbing PT's hand with a bright smile. Mr. PT, I hear you need a date for the gala. I can help. Damon was stunned. This two-faced woman. She's cold as ice to me, but warm and friendly to him. Pearl's sudden appearance made PT pause. You want to go to the gala with me? Seeing her chance, the girl quickly made her case. I'm skilled in disguise. I can help you draw out the person you're looking for. Holt thought it made sense. He did need a date for an event like this. But before he could agree, Damon, who had been ignored until now, slammed his hands on the table and stood up. Excellent idea, PT. You'll handle surveillance from the outside. I'll go to the gala myself. He walked over to Pearl, hands in his pockets, and looked down at her. His tone left no room for argument. And you will be my date. Pearl inwardly celebrated. She had gambled and won. The demon would never let his prey out of his sight. To prevent her from causing trouble, he had to intervene. If she had asked either of them alone, they likely would have refused. Damon leaned in close, their eyes locking. You seem awfully happy about going to this party, he teased. You must have another reason. Pearl clenched her fists, reminding herself she had to get in contact with Black Jade from the Oboe family to get information about her brother. She couldn't let him find out. She deliberately looked down, avoiding his gaze. I've been trapped in this awful place for so long, I'm going crazy. Plus, I have to constantly watch out for a certain demon who wants to eat me before the man could get angry. She hugged herself and started to fake cry. I'm just a fragile human. How could you demons possibly understand how I feel? If this keeps up, I'm going to have a mental breakdown. Damon looked conflicted, and Pearl knew instantly that he was concerned about her mental state. She had the upper hand. The demon realized his predicament, but had no choice but to give in. His power was, after all, linked to her well-being. Annoyed, he cut off her crying. Enough! Dry your tears. Get ready to be my date. In the main hall, Damon was briefing his team. The Oboe family's power had grown rapidly in recent years, threatening their control over the City of Desire. If the top-secret list the trader was selling fell into their hands, the entire city's power structure could shift. They had to intercept it at all costs. Nearby, Pearl stared at the demon, frowning. Although she wanted nothing to do with him, she knew this was her only chance. Damon continued, explaining that the Oboe family's leader was an old acquaintance, cunning as a fox. They maintained a cooperative front, but he was always making moves behind the scenes. The mission was to catch both the trader and his contact, the Oboe executive Black Jade, at the gala, without causing a scene. I have to find Black Jade before they do, and get information about my brother, Pearl decided. A floor plan of the gala was laid on the table. Damon told everyone to memorize it. As the girl studied it, she repeated to herself, Pearl, this is a test. A test to get out of here and solve the mystery of your brother. Since they would have to dance together at the event, they decided to practice beforehand. Before the demon took her hand, Pearl tried to steel herself. I have the upper hand now. I can't show any fear. But the moment their fingers intertwined, he pulled her close and whispered in her ear, Don't try any tricks. I'll let you in on a little secret. I can read your thoughts through touch. As he spoke, his thumb gently caressed her palm. Miss Pearl, the girl's mind went blank. She didn't understand how he knew her code name, but she forced herself to remain calm. Are you talking to me? That name isn't very unique. Damon chuckled. You don't believe me? Then how do you think I knew your favorite dish? Almost instantly, Pearl shoved him away, trembling with fear. He can read minds through touch. This demon actually has that kind of power. Damon watched her, remembering what she had mumbled while she was feverish, and smirked. Trying to manipulate me? Fine, I'll play your little game. Convinced that Damon could read her mind through physical contact, Pearl chugged a bottle of water and then a large black coffee, determined to stay sharp for their dance practice. Her instinctive shove moments ago had made her nervous, but now she hoped the caffeine would help her handle the situation. Seeing her drink so much, Damon picked up a cup of black coffee to try it himself. Bolt, standing nearby, couldn't help but ask, "Are you sure you want to drink that?" The demon nodded, muttering, "I can't believe I'm stooping to this. The stuff humans use to enslave themselves for work." But a second later, his face darkened and he spit it out. "What is this taste? It's so bitter." Earl was surprised by his strong reaction, but then he said something that made her furious. "This stuff is definitely only for workhorses." The two went out to the lawn to practice. "Just call me Damon at the party," the man said suddenly. Pearl looked at him with disdain. "No, thank you. I prefer to address you as Mr. Damon." Annoyed by her constant rejection, the demon insisted they needed to act like a couple to blend in, which meant being more intimate. Reluctantly, Pearl forced herself to say his name. Satisfied, the demon snapped his fingers. "Let's begin." As they danced, Pearl kept trying to minimize the amount of physical contact, wondering if it would prevent him from reading her mind. Noticing she was distracted, Damon leaned in. "Miss Pearl," he teased. "For a spy, you're so agile, yet your dancing is so stiff." She shot him a death glare. "Thanks to you," the demon chuckled, then tightened his grip on her waist, pulling her flesh against him and spinning them around before she could react. Pearl struggled to keep her balance, mentally cursing him while also terrified he would read her thoughts. She forced herself to think about geometry and arithmetic formulas. Seeing her so seriously concentrating, Damon couldn't help but laugh. He couldn't believe she'd actually fallen for his mind-reading lie. He intentionally pulled her into his arms, causing her to stumble. Not far away, the twins were hiding in the bushes, watching. They were confused. The two were supposed to be dancing, but it looked more like a clumsy tug-of-war. Meanwhile, Damon released her, frowning. "This is going to affect the mission." Pearl paused, then looked at him with a serious expression. "Again. I'll do better." The demon sighed and created a little more space between them, trying to put her at ease. Pearl looked down, a complex feeling stirring within her. She never thought he would actually be considerate of her. For the sake of the mission, she decided to temporarily let her guard down and just be herself. After all, she had always been excellent at completing her tasks. Gradually, their movements became more synchronized. Watching their coordinated steps, the twins couldn't help but admire the girl's graceful posture. But in the distance, P watched it all with a deep frown, lost in thought. As Pearl was planning her escape at the party, figuring out how to use the black powder from a battery, there was a polite knock at the door. She quickly hid her materials and went to greet PT. He informed her that a team of professionals would be arriving shortly to help her select a gown for the gala, and advised her to be on her best behavior. Ever the professional herself, Pearl smiled warmly. "Thank you for the black coffee you bring me every day. I promise to be the perfect dance partner." Even so, P gave her a subtle warning. "Miss Pearl, right now you are nothing more than a toy for Damon to cure his boredom. But if you ever notice him starting to treat you with special attention, that is an extremely dangerous sign." For millennia, most humans have been dull and ignorant. But occasionally, a gifted one appears. Damon admires their talent and shows them special favor. And every time, the human starts to believe they've won the demon's affection. They think they're special or that only they can control him. Some even fall in love with him because he embodies everything they desire. They don't realize that their inflated egos and obsession with the demon will ultimately lead to their deaths, whether it was a brilliant weapons maker or a devout scholar. When Damon looked upon their broken bodies, he would simply say, "What a shame," and then completely erase any trace of them. That is the end point of a demon's special attention. You get a fleeting illusion of affection in exchange for an eternity of pain. Faced with PT's heartfelt mourning, Pearl promised him without hesitation, "Don't worry. The only thing I want from your boss is for him to stay as far away from me as possible." After all, attracting special attention was a cardinal sin for a spy. As he was leaving, P glanced back. That would be for the best. History always repeats itself. You will not be the exception. That is my advice to you. After that conversation, Pearl was in no mood to pick out a dress, but she soon found that the twins were more excited about it than she was. Suddenly, she was surrounded by a team of stylists. They didn't have to be this extra just for a dress, she thought. Dressed so ostentatiously, she'd be the fastest target at the party. But the twins were having a blast, making her try on everything from an innocent ladylike dress to a sexy black femme fatale number. After being messed with for what felt like hours, Pearl realized they were just treating her like their personal dress-up doll. This was getting ridiculous. Seeing they were no help, Pearl, an expert in disguise, decided to pick out the most practical outfit from the sea of options herself. But just then, P took the lookbook from her, explaining that a gala of this caliber required a proper evening gown. He handed her a few classic, tasteful options. The only problem was that they were all backless designs, which put Pearl in a difficult position. Noticing her hesitation, P asked what was wrong, but she just looked down and said nothing. Seeing her predicament, Damon stepped in. If it's so hard to choose, let me see. The gown the demon picked not only perfectly covered the scar on her back, but also hid her tattoo. In his words, it doesn't matter if it's trendy or classic, what's suitable is best. Hit her soft heart like a lover's whisper. Her heart was pounding. Was this joy? Recalling P's warning, Pearl clutched her chest, unsure if this thoughtful gesture was genuine consideration or just another one of his brilliant manipulations. But as a spy, she knew one thing for certain. The frantic rhythm of her heart was the highest level of alarm. After arriving, Damon gallantly took the girl's hand as she stepped out of the car. When they entered the hall, a server's eyes went wide with shock upon recognizing him as the founder of the City of Desire. The man simply put a finger to his lips, silencing him. Clearly, the Guster family's leader was a well-kept secret. Pearl took it all in, trying to figure out the pattern he used for his demonic deals, hoping it would lead her to the truth behind her brother's request. Once inside the ballroom, their striking looks quickly made them the center of attention. The high society guests all whispered, wondering which reclusive family they belonged to. Despite the compliments, Pearl's nerves were on edge. She told herself to focus on the dance with Damon and avoid thinking about her escape plan in case he sensed it. She tried to convince herself that her racing heart was just fear. Fear of being manipulated. Fear of her cover being blown. Don't think he'll read it, she silently repeated. On the dance floor, the demon suddenly leaned in, his hand resting on the small of her back. She flinched and asked what he was doing, only to learn that the thick stench of desire in the room was making him sick. Just as Pearl was wondering what to do, Damon pulled her into a hallway, pressed her against the wall, and began to deeply inhale the scent of her neck. Like a cat with catnip, your scent helps block out the stench, he whispered, but it's too faint. Pearl was both angry and stunned, silently cursing what a pervert he was. But she was powerless to stop him. As they were about to leave, the girl pulled away from the demon and headed back to the main hall, only to be stopped by a young man's voice. He politely asked her for a dance. Seeing his date being hit on, the demon lord's jealousy flared. He pulled the girl into his arms and looked up at the other man. "Obo," he said coolly, "what do you want with my partner?" Realizing the pink-haired man was Black Jade's boss, Pearl froze. But Obo just smiled. "This young lady's radiance outshines even the crystal chandeliers tonight, Lord Damon. I couldn't resist asking for a dance. I promised to guard her like a precious treasure and return her safely." "No," Damon said flatly. "My darling is with me tonight. Her heels are too high. The only safe place for her is in my arms." Pearl was floored by his shamelessness. "Are you kidding me? You're the most dangerous one here." The pink-haired man sensed their relationship wasn't simple. For the great lord to be so protective, he probed. "It seems this young lady isn't just any dance partner. Is she perhaps your carefully chosen new prey?" Pearl's heart skipped a beat. She knew Damon was a demon, but this young man with his androgynous beauty was not only the leader of a powerful gang at such a young age, but was also connected to him. Before she could think further, she heard Damon's cold warning. "Obo, rules are the foundation of the City of Desire. This city is like a ball. Everyone has their place. As long as you dance your steps correctly, the night ends perfectly. But if you step into someone else's territory and tread on their toes, you'll end up shattered on the floor. The pink-haired man understood immediately. Of course, everything operates within the framework you've set. With your guidance, the story will not lose its way. Pearl had been hoping to win him over as an ally, but Damon interrupted her thoughts. Are your feet tired? A little, she said distractedly. Then I won't keep you two any longer, the pink-haired man said. Enjoy your evening. But as he turned to leave, he smiled. Amber must have done something right for a demon to care for you so much. His little sister is quite something. Meanwhile, in a dressing room, Pearl was applying a disguise in front of the mirror, while the twin brothers stood guard outside under orders from their boss to keep her from escaping. When she still hadn't come out, the older brother grew suspicious, but the younger one was unfazed. Women take at least half an hour to get ready. What's the rush? It wasn't until Damon, annoyed by the people swarming him, spoke through his earpiece. Is she still not out? After the twins confirmed she was, he asked, Who has come out of that room? When he heard the name Oboe, Damon stopped in his tracks. He glanced at the pink-haired man in the middle of the dance floor. He hasn't left. How could he have been in the dressing room? Bennett hit him. Go after that Oboe, now, he ordered through gritted teeth. She's escaped. At the same time, Pearl finally found Black Jade in a side corridor. Recognizing him from the photo, she quickened her pace. The man was surprised to see her. Chief, what are you doing here? I'm waiting for the top secret list from the Guster family. But before Pearl could say anything, she heard the twins' anxious shouts from behind. Boss, we found her! With no time to explain, Pearl yelled at Black Jade, Run! A moment later, a massive explosion rocked the corridor. By the time the twins recovered, their target had vanished. Learning that Pearl had slipped right through his subordinate fingers, Damon crushed the wine glass in his hand, his eyes burning with murderous intent. Useless fools, search everywhere. I want her to have nowhere to hide. Damon was certain that Pearl's target was Black Jade, and that she wouldn't have changed her disguise. He immediately called for PT. She's with the Oboe family's Black Jade. Search the building's perimeter. They can't have gotten far.
As P left to carry out the order, the pink-haired man watched them, puzzled.
Where did Amber's sister go? And why is Damon looking for her? His concern for this girl is highly unusual. He whispered a few words to a nearby attendant, who nodded and disappeared. Meanwhile, outside on a clock tower, Black Jade was following the person he thought was his boss, completely bewildered. Chief, wasn't the plan to get the list tonight? Why are the Gusters after us? Were we exposed? And what are we doing out here on this high-rise? Pearl figured this remote location was perfect for getting information about her brother, but she said aloud, Our informant was compromised. They're on to her. Deliberately testing him. Black Jade cursed under his breath, wondering what he was supposed to do about his mission if he had to go to a safe house. Just then, Pearl cut him off, asking about the status of the spy named Amber. Black Jade looked at her, confused. That top-tier spy? I just saw him this month. What's there to worry about? My brother really is alive. Pearl's hands trembled as she pressed him for the location of their next meeting. Realizing something was wrong, the man's expression changed instantly. Chief, you don't know. In a flash, he pulled a gun and pointed it at Pearl. You're not the chief. Who are you? Seeing her cover was blown, Pearl tore off the realistic mask, revealing her face. Remember me? The man gasped in recognition. You're Amber's sister? Tell me where my brother is, Pearl demanded, cutting to the chase. Her words snapped Black Jade back to reality. That's classified. Suddenly, Pearl noticed movement in the building behind them. Sniper! She yelled. Watch out! At the same instant, a gunshot rang out. Black Jade fell, and the shockwave sent Pearl stumbling backward, losing her balance and plummeting from the sky. Her mind went blank. No, I came so close. I was about to see my brother. Someone please save me. At the last possible second, a hand firmly caught her like a god chasing away the shadow of death. Still in shock, Pearl looked up and froze. The one who had saved her from certain death was the demon, held tightly in Damon's arms. Pearl snapped back to reality and shoved him away. You're hurt, let me see, the demon said, reaching for her. It's just a scratch, Pearl said stubbornly, rubbing the bruised spot. It's bleeding, Damon insisted. He moved closer and healed the wound with a touch of his hand. Pearl turned her head away. Are you really that obsessed with your prey? She asked coldly. The demon looked down at her. Is that any way to talk to the person who just saved your life? His stare made her uncomfortable. She retorted that he was following her everywhere. But in her mind, she was wondering, there's no way this guy actually cares about me, right? As if reading her thoughts, Damon's tone suddenly grew serious. I will always be by your side. I was really worried about you. I don't want to see you get hurt. The sudden, heartfelt confession left Pearl stunned. What is he saying? Why is he saying things that could be so easily misunderstood? Did you twist your ankle too? The demon asked, noticing her stumble. No, the girl said, quickly, pulling her leg back. Damon closed his eyes, his voice filled with a sense of helplessness. Trust me, I will protect you. His words hit her like a stone in a calm lake, sending ripples through her. When was the last time she'd heard a promise like that? 10 years ago? 15? She remembered her brother, Amber, telling her sternly that she had to be strong on her own and never rely on anyone. Pearl, you have to learn to solve everything yourself to survive. Heroes are useless for people like us. She didn't understand what he meant back then, but she had nodded obediently. Since that day, she knew that being cared for was a warmth she shouldn't expect in life. But this man, he was being so attentive. He was a demon. She knew that perfectly well. So why was there a spark of joy in her heart? Was she at being seduced by him? Just then, Damon frowned. What's that smell? Why did it suddenly get so much stronger? He looked at Pearl. Is it coming from you? Before she could react, he pushed her to the ground and pinned her down. The fragrant scent swirling around him confirmed it. Her aroma really could change. But Pearl struggled desperately, alarm bells screaming in her head. He's just a beast in a handsome disguise. A demon. He's too dangerous. As she was thinking this, Damon suddenly lowered his head and began kissing his way down her neck. Don't touch me. Finally, the girl raised her hand and slapped him hard across the face. The demon ran a hand through his hair in frustration, a complex mix of emotions swirling in his eyes. I'm genuinely interested in you now, he said. Let me be the one to crack open your hard shell and touch the soft pearl hidden inside. Pearl violently shook off Damon's hand. Her voice filled with protest as she refused his touch. Damon tried to explain that he was just worried about her getting lost in a new place, but his words of concern only made her more suspicious. She pressed him, demanding to know his real reason for being so attentive. To her surprise, the demon not only apologized sincerely, but also promised to be at her beck and call all day. This all started half an hour earlier, when the twins noticed Pearl hadn't spoken for 3 days, and concluded that their boss must have upset her. When Damon called her name, she didn't respond. It wasn't until he suggested they go out shopping that she finally turned her head and agreed. She knew that with Black Jade dead, her trail of clues had gone cold. But she wasn't ready to give up. She planned to use the outing as a chance to investigate his recent movements and hopefully find a trace of her brother. The two walked into a makeup store where a sales associate eagerly greeted them. Pearl raised an eyebrow at Damon, asking why he'd brought her here. She told him she only needed enough to maintain her disguises and didn't really care about her appearance. The demon stared at her, saying he just wanted to find a color that would highlight her unique charm. When the associate mistook them for a loving couple, Pearl thought about correcting her, but held her tongue. Instead, she warned Damon to keep a 3-foot distance, trying to draw a clear line between them. Along the way, she spotted an intelligence drop hidden within a dessert shop's logo. Needing information, she decided to go inside. At the counter, she used silent lip reading and coded phrases to communicate her needs to the server. After they had arranged how she would receive the intel on Black Jade's whereabouts, she found herself thinking that, while being with this demon was exhausting, it wasn't entirely without its benefits. Just then, the server recommended the new couples special. Pearl immediately declined, but Damon insisted on ordering it, claiming he wanted the strawberry parfait. She was surprised that a demon would like sweets, but then Damon said the parfait was actually for her. The sudden thoughtfulness confused her. She couldn't figure out how he knew what she was thinking. They hadn't touched, so he couldn't have read her mind. Tasting the sweet but not too sugary drink, she was momentarily transported back to her childhood, remembering how she had longed to share a treat with someone. When she snapped out of it, she realized Damon had been watching her the whole time. She tried to ignore his intense gaze, but her eyes were drawn to a jar of paper stars on a shelf. The demon caught her looking. "You're looking at those stars like you found a lost treasure," he teased before offering to write down a wish for her. His words were a wake-up call. All of the demon's gentleness was just a sugar-coated trap. His kindness was nothing more than a carefully planned test to capture her desires and ultimately her soul. With this realization, Pearl met his gaze, a cold smile forming in her mind. "Fine, let him try to tempt me. I have nothing to fear." But their little game of cat and mouse is being watched by spies sent by the pink-haired oboe. She only says this because she knows the well-dressed man is deliberately testing her. As soon as his spy returned, Oboe cut right to the chase. "Have you found the traitor we planted in the Guster family?" "He's gone completely silent since the gala," the spy reported respectfully, guessing he had probably been quietly dealt with by the Goosters. Enraged, Oboe threw a dart that narrowly missed the spy's head. "You're all useless." Seeing his boss was furious, the spy quickly handed him photos of the couple on their date. "We did find this today," he offered. Oboe glanced at the photos, and a sinister smile spread across his face. "I never thought Damon would go to so much trouble for a human girl." He pinned a photo to a target. "Find out what the connection is between them," he ordered his spy coldly. For years, he had been searching for the demon's weakness. This girl might just be the key. Meanwhile, back at the mansion, PT saw the two return and tried to greet Pearl, but she walked straight to her room without a word. Glancing at the dejected demon nearby, P chuckled. "You're great at catching traitors and retrieving lists, but when it comes to her, you're completely helpless." Damon frowned and changed the subject. "What did you find out from the traitor today? Did you get any proof of who he was really working for?" On the topic of business, PT's expression turned regretful. "I'm sorry, the traitor died before his execution. We found he had a poison capsule hidden in his tooth. Unfortunately, we can still only guess who he was." The demon waved the dismissive hand and scoffed. "It doesn't matter. It's just the final struggle of some lowlife. They'll show their hand again soon enough." Late at night, Pearl lay in bed thinking about the day's events. She decided not to rush her escape, at least not until she got the intel on Black Jade's movements. But just as she finally drifted off to sleep, danger was creeping closer. Damon was surprised that the girl hadn't tried to escape during their outing. It saved him the trouble of having to catch her again. But the thought of her fragile body being hurt once more, and him suffering the consequences, was irritating. He found himself wondering what her purpose was for sneaking into his basement when they first met. And why did her scent grow stronger after he had healed her with his touch? Could it be that she liked it? At that thought, the demon couldn't resist placing a soft kiss on Pearl's slender leg. "Come now, my dear human girl," he whispered. "Let me find a way in. I need you to become more fragrant, to let your desires fill you up. Only then will you be ready to satisfy my palate." Looking at the sleeping girl, the demon raised his hand and gently touched her forehead. As he chanted an incantation, her soul was pulled into an illusion of his own creation. "Sleep now," he murmured, "and never wake up." But her vision was blocked by a blindfold, and before she could process what was happening, she felt a large hand behind her and flinched. An unknown danger was slowly approaching. She knew she should run, but she couldn't break free. As the man's cold, terrifying presence washed over her, the demon began to lick and nibble at her earlobe. A tingling, numbing sensation shot through her entire body. The girl who had been fighting her restraints just moments ago now found herself enjoying this strange new pleasure. When she learned her order had arrived, Pearl was ecstatic. It might contain the intel she'd been waiting for. After all, hidden inside that cake was a month's worth of Black Jade's movements, a crucial clue to finding her brother. She was about to rush back to her room to open it and retrieve the hidden scroll. But just then, the box suddenly burst open with a pop, revealing the strawberry cake inside. It didn't take a genius for Pearl to figure out who the culprit was. The demon. His excuse? He'd bought it, so he had the right to open it however he wanted. Hearing this, the twin brothers wanted in on the treat, but Damon completely ignored them. "I bought this for Miss Pearl," he said. "So, naturally, the two of us will be sharing it." Left with no way to argue, Pearl could only curse him in her head. This infuriating man. He's definitely doing this on purpose. Still, she knew she couldn't refuse. It would only make her look like she had something to hide. But why was he so insistent on sharing this specific cake? Was it a coincidence? Or did he already know something? The intel was in here somewhere. But where? Tucked between the layers of cream or hidden inside one of the strawberries? Her mind racing, Pearl took a bite of her piece. Nothing. She glanced up at him, but his expression was perfectly calm. He didn't look like he'd found anything unusual either. Just as her thoughts were spiraling, Damon suddenly turned and gave her a knowing look. "I've heard," he said, "that some top-tier spies like to hide things like microfilm or tiny scrolls and food to pass along information." Pearl couldn't tell if he was calling her bluff or just messing with her, so she decided to play along. "Wow, that's impressive. Did you see that in a movie?" She replied. "Here, why don't you try my piece and see if it has any secrets?" She only dared to offer because she had just checked her own slice with her fork and knew it was empty. The demon glanced at her, clearly not expecting that response. After a 3-second pause, Damon leaned over and took the piece of strawberry cake directly with his mouth. After eating it, he slowly licked a trace of cream from the corner of his lips and shot her a suggestive look. Delicious. In that instant, images from her steamy dream with him from the night before flashed into her mind. The unexpected shock left Pearl frozen in place. Realizing she'd zoned out, she quickly pulled herself together. This was no time to be thinking about that. Most of the cake was gone, but the intel was still nowhere to be found. That could only mean one thing, Pearl concluded.